Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here. Welcome to World of Warships for our Saturday Upgrade Commander build video. This is me trying again to record a video for today as my PC was having some crashes and downs, so hopefully I figured it out. We will see. So anyhow, with that being said, let's crack into it. So we're doing an Upgrade Commander build video today on the Tier 10 French torpedo destroyer, the Cassard. So I have quite enjoyed the ship so far, so looking forward to sharing some more details about the ship here with you in today's video as we go over the upgrades, modules, armament, combat signals, and of course the commander. So first to talk about what kind of destroyer is the Cassard. Well, I kind of gave it away already, but she's a torpedo destroyer, but leans a bit into the hybrid. You have gunboat destroyers, you have torpedo destroyers, and you have hybrid destroyers, which are a mix of both. Cassard can be a bit of a hybrid, but she leans hybrid or torpedo towards hybrid, as she does get 6 127mm guns. I think I misspoke and I said 8 in the Friday highlight, so forgive me for that. But you get 6, and you have 2 turrets on the back and 1 on the front. And we also have these 4 torpedo racks. We have 12 torpedoes in total, 6 per side, with amazing torpedo firing angles. Torpedoes that, when fully built out, can be just a minute and a half reload time and up to 13.5 kilometer range with a very potent damage, maximum damage 7 kilometer and under. In terms of the armor layout, you are coated with 19mm and you have a 13mm superstructure, pretty normal for most destroyers, so not a 25mm belt happening here, all said and done. Going right into the modules, we have again 627mm guns that reload in 3.5 seconds, so it's actually pretty viable, pretty good. 180 turn time of 10 seconds, maximum HG shell damage 1900, maximum AP shell damage 2450. Hit point wise, we have 24,500 hit points. We can get this boosted. It would be less if you do not have a commander with survivability expert on. We actually have a unique commander, which I'll talk about shortly, and for destroyers, he has the enhanced survivability skill, so it means instead of 350 we get plus 400 per ship tier, basically giving us an additional 500 hit points that otherwise we would not have. So 24,500, and with Charlie Kilo we can boost that further up to 25,750, which as time goes on here in World of Warships is becoming increasingly more important for destroyers to have more hit points, as it seems to be as of late Wargaming is kind of introducing more DDs with massive repair parties and larger hit point pools, and I'm looking at Hull as an example of that, or these other destroyers like Lucian, and I think even maybe Laffy soon destroyed, also having these big repair parties. So you need the health to better help trade when those engagements take place. Torpedoes, again, 180 turn time of 6 seconds. We have a 91.8 second reload time. Maximum range 13.5. Maximum damage 22,233. Speed 79 knots. Detectability range 1.5. When we have built into the speed like I've done here, gives the enemy player about 7 seconds of reaction time, tied with that detectability range at 1.5. If you're at the base speed of the torpedoes, which is around 72 knots, they only have 7.8 seconds reaction time roughly, where now it's down closer to 7 even. You can see maximum damage threshold here up to 7 kilometers is that 22,233. I'll throw it on the top of the screen here probably. Wargaming just changed that as of this update 14.7, where they nerfed the maximum damage. It was closer to I think 24,000 or just over. But in exchange, they ended up increasing the damage that torpedoes can do past the 7 kilometer damage threshold, where previously if you hit a ship at, let's say, 13.4 away, your damage would be less than Holland torpedoes, but now they'll do more with that buff to the longer range, which I'm actually in favor of. I think that's good, so good to see here. You know, if you went the hard-hitting torps, you know, just take at close range, then it's like just play Kleber or perhaps even Marceau, right, in a certain sense. Or Shimakaze 8 kilometer torpedoes. Then we have the gunfire main battery firing range, which is 12.6 kilometers. This is really good. No need to bolster it any further. If you want to play gunboat, French destroyer, play Kleber, play Marceau. Speed is 34 knots. We can bump that up with the Serum Mic combat signal, take us to 35.7, and use the emergency engine power, which is a plus 30%, which takes us up, I think, to over 41 knots. Now, the difference with Cassard compared to Kleber and Marceau, if you're familiar with those two destroyers, is that each of these destroyers have a higher base speed. So 46.2 knots without the engine boost activated on Marceau. And then here on Kleber, as an example, again, 46.2 knots. And they only have, there's a 20% engine boost on these two. So what Wargaming has done is that they've slapped on a 30%, but they've nerfed your maximum base speed as an effect. So you really want to utilize this during gun engagements, or let's say you get lit up by a radar, you're being focus fired, you want to be able to have the emergency engine power at hand. Now stock, this is a 90-second action time, but with the engine boost mod 1, which I'll get into, we've put it up to 117 seconds. So now with that being said, with upgrades, our main armaments mod 1, it reduces the risk of main battery becoming incapacitated by negative 20%, main battery survivability plus 50%, main battery repair time negative 20%, risk of torpedo tubes becoming incapacitated negative 20%, torpedo tube survivability plus 50%, torpedo tubes repair time negative 20%. So this is effectively what you want to be running here. It's the best because when you look at your ship, between your guns, your main battery, and your torpedo tubes, it's all pretty vulnerable, and it's your bread and butter in terms of your damage output. So I would advise that one being the one that you take. The second slot, I have taken the engine boost mod 1, as I've just explained when looking at the modules, to take us from 90 seconds to 117 seconds. The way you see this particular module, if you don't have it equipped, you can actually click right on it there from the upgrade drop-down menu. Otherwise, you can come right in here into the armory like I'm doing, click customizations, upgrades. It's right here for 17,000 coal or 12,750 coal with the 25% off coupon that resets once every month. If you're a newer player to the game, perhaps you want to save your coal to buy commanders and ships that are quite expensive here in the game. But maybe if you're more intermediate, you've been playing the game for a longer period of time, then I would say it's probably worth effectively to run here on Cassard. And for note, in the Friday highlight video that I had yesterday, I wasn't running this at that point because I realized during the video, the battle, I actually didn't have this mounted. And I would like to have engine boost a little bit longer, particularly from one of the engagements I had where the CV focusing me. So if you don't have the coal resources to spend, then I would recommend the engine room protection. This reduces the risk of engine becoming incapacitated by negative 20%, as well as your steering gears, and improves the repair time if either of those should be incapacitated. The third slot, we've taken the torpedo tubes mod 1. This improves your torpedo speed by plus 5%, torpedo traverse speed by plus 20, and your risk of torpedo tubes becoming incapacitated negative 40%. So between these two, you have a negative 60% if you wanted to think of it in terms of stacking it that way, as an example. So you're really protecting your torpedoes, which is your biggest damage asset here, of course, with the Cassard. So it's worth building into, in my opinion. I wouldn't bother with the aiming systems mod 1 to just improve basically your vertical and horizontal dispersion of your main battery. Like if I'm going to run this, I'd run it on Kleber or Marceau. You know, go for the torps. That's what this line's about effectively. Fourth slot, I've taken the propulsion mod 1, time to reach full engine power when accelerating, negative 50%. This is helpful like you saw in yesterday's video. If you've not seen it, I'll tag it at the end of this video, where we utilize our emergency engine power to help us dodge shells. We were juking, we were using our propulsion and slowing down, accelerating. I quite like it. You do have a maneuverability of your rudder shift time being 4.5 seconds. So I know the destroyer players really like taking steering gears mod 1. To each their own. You can certainly try this out. I have just favored propulsion mod 1. In terms of the fifth slot, we have a concealment system mod 1. This is reducing our ship's detectability range by air and sea by negative 10%. Dispersion of shells fired by enemies attacking your ship plus 5%. So basically have slightly worse dispersion when shells are landing on your ship. So we get down to concealment by sea 6.1, by air 3.1. This is really nice, and it helps you play within a 0.9 kilometer range with your torpedoes doing their maximum damage up to 7 kilometers. So you have about 0.9 kilometers there to play with. Always helps, of course, if the enemy ship's pushing into you and you're dumping torpedoes as you're moving away. So then, like, let's say you could be talking 1.5 to 2 kilometer distance, right? So I like going for the conceal build. It's one that makes the most sense here on Cassard. The sixth slot, we've gone for the torpedo tubes mod 2. This improves our torpedo tube reload time by -15%, bring us down to that 91.8 seconds. But you do see we take a big nerf here in the risk of our torpedo tubes becoming incapacitated by plus 50%. So that is why the torpedo tubes mod 1 and the main armaments mod 1 come in handy in reducing the ability of torpedo tubes becoming incapacitated, and thus it basically nullifies this. And if you just want to think of like a 10% gap after that in your favor, that can be helpful. So this is the build I have liked running thus far on Cassard, but with the newer edition of the Engine Boost mod 1. Now in terms of the armaments, again we have 627mm guns. They have a reload time of 3.5 seconds, which we can get down further, and I'll talk about that with the commander build. They do 1900 damage. They have a 7% chance of starting fire on the target. We can bump that up here to 8%. Excuse me, I'm going to take one off. There's a half percentage in here as well, but we can be running these fire signals, and then we have an armor penetration capacity of 21mm. So basically when you run into destroyers that perhaps have a 21mm belt, then you're going to want to switch to your armor piercing to deal with them. That happened to me yesterday when playing the Daring, and I went up against a George Hoffman. Initial shell velocity, 808 meters a second, again, 12.6 kilometer range. The initial shell velocity is the same from the high explosive and armor piercing. Sometimes you see some slight changes here, but it's the same here in the case of Cassard. Our AP does 2,450 damage, so if you do get broadside targets among the more heavier armored destroyers, cruisers, destroyers, even aircraft carriers, it's always worth using armor piercing. But of course with subs, in most destroyers that don't have a lot of the that 25mm armor belt, then you're just going to stick with your high explosive. Torpedoes, 91.8 seconds, maximum range at 13.5. Very handy for even torpedoing longer distance targets. Cruisers that have 12-kilometer radar as an example. Maximum damage 12,233, 79 knot speed, and detectability range 1.5. And that torpedoes can only inflict maximum damage at short ranges. Torpedo damage is reduced at long ranges. So your maximum damage threshold again is 7 kilometers. So that helps with concealment being 6.1. That if you're able to, you want to get as close as possible. You saw the St. Vincent I torpedoed within 7 kilometers. 3 torpedoes hit. We hit him for massive damage, and then we were just able to gun him down, even though only 3 torpedoes landed. And we had our Bourgogne player helping us out. Depth charges, maximum damage 3,000, number of charges 2, bombs in a charge 12, reload time 40 seconds, so effectively we get 24 depth charges as a whole with moderate depth charge damage. Consumable wise, standard across most destroyers, 5-second action time, a 40-second cooldown time with an unlimited number of charges. Emergency engine power plus 30%. I actually like to have this in the Y slot, so I'll go ahead and fix that now. So you can always switch things around here if you want, or restore to default. So 30%, consumable action time 117 seconds, cooldown time 90 seconds, and we get 5 of them, so actually quite nice. Other combat signals I like to take. Right now our torpedoes have over a 400% chance of causing flooding. It's not listed here, it's just when I looked at ship tool the other day. And so we can boost the flood damage here by plus 15%, which I do recommend doing. Pretty nifty. I like running Hotel Yankee. Sometimes I'm going to be running into... I had a submarine try to ram me when I was playing Cassard, right? And so if he didn't have a ram flag, I would have got the Die Hard achievement if he had rammed me. But he could have had this too. We both would have died. So I like running that just because you might find yourself going up against a submarine player who just kind of gives up and wants to ram you. I also like to take the AA combat signal. As I talked about in yesterday's video, your AA is quite average. It's mediocre. There's nothing really to write home about. You'll do some decent damage to tier 8 CVs, but tier 10 CVs and super CVs, life will be pain. But you can see the damage by shell explosions and continuous damage goes up by a small margin, taking us from a 60 to 61 AA rating. And then I run the November Foxtrot, which brings my DCP off cooldown 5% faster by 38 seconds here and 85.5 seconds here. Commander skill wise, we are running the unique commander Philippe Auboyneau. I'm just probably pronouncing it right, but we're going to go for it. He has some talents and enhanced skills. Now, if you're wondering where you pick up this commander, again, we're going to go into the armory. And as we go into the armory, we're going to be clicking on the commanders icon here. And your coal commanders will be listed up top. But because I've already picked him up, he's right here for 175,000 coal with a brief overview of him and his historical record, if you will. Now, here in the game, he has some talents. He has 3 in particular. He has the Rampant Talent. It activates once upon earning the Devastating Strike achievement. I showed you what that looked like when I dev struck a Holland in throwing that little clip in yesterday's video. So out of that, we had a faster reload time to our main battery by -5%, and our torpedo tube reload time also was improved by 5%. And if we were playing like a CV or I guess a hybrid plane for that matter, we had a -5% on aircraft preparation time. You have the Elemental Fury. So it activates upon capturing a key area or assisting in capturing one. So your caps, so it kind of entices a bit of an objective gameplay. You know, some destroyer commanders will completely avoid caps like they're the plague, where you get a little bit of a perk here in running Philippe on your destroyer or whatever ship you may have him on, and activating this talent, which gives you a +1% chance of causing fire on a target and +10% chance of causing flooding on an enemy target as well. You have the Surge Forward talent, which activates upon or after every 2 million potential damage, ship speed +8%. So you could stack this up to 8, 16, 24, 32%. I've seen it at 32% before, not myself. The John the Ruthless with his Conde had a video featured by Jingles where he got over 8 million potential damage due to mainly an Annapolis firing armor piercing at him being angled, and he was flying on the map in the Conde. It was hysterical and very funny to watch. So you're not really going to get this talent necessarily active perhaps with the Cassard unless you avoid some airstrikes and you're avoiding some torpedoes perhaps. Otherwise you're going to be playing more stealthy play. So he kind of works out more better for like something like a Marceau, Colbert, Ennui, or maybe even a Bourgogne Republic if you want to be going a bit faster. Now in terms of his enhanced skills here for Destroyer, like I've just said, he has the HP increase for each ship tier +400. If I went to my Colbert commander, you can see normally it's just 350 as I'm running Jean-Jacques Enroux, but it is +400 here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you my 21-point build. This is what I'm intending to run for, and let me just walk through and explain my thought process here. So let's say you have a 10-point commander, then I'm going to advise you to go down what I refer to as the bread and butter destroyer build. I'd say about 90% of destroyers in the game will run these 4 skills almost mandatory, if not 100% typically will these 3 here. So preventive maintenance reduces the risk of your main turret, sonar, torpedo tubes, steering gears, and engine becoming incapacitated. Reduces the risk of your modules becoming incapacitated by -30%. Secondary battery survivability +15%. AA mount survivability +15% as well. Your last stand, your ship remains partially able to sustain speed and maneuverability with the engine and steering gears incapacitated. Basically, you're operating, you're not a dead fish in water with no engine, or you're not stuck in circles because your rudder has been incapacitated. So they both still operate, but just at a penalized capacity. So they're not as good if you were, of course, fully intact on your destroyer, but it's really meaningful to have here on most all destroyers in the game. Survivability Expert, we're boosting our overall hit point pool, and just like I was talking about earlier, you're having more and more destroyers come into the game with armor belts, more and more destroyers with larger hit pools, more and more destroyers seem to be coming in with heals in the game. So to have the heal to go when you have those destroyer on destroyer engagements is needed more than ever now here in 2025 in World of Warships. Concealment Expert, so when we go full concealed, as I discussed with the upgrades, 6.1 by sea, 3.1 by air, so I do recommend you going for that. And if you're running around on the map, you basically are going to be run around with your AA defenses off because you have a 6-kilometer range. So the default key for that is the P key, and you're just best to just leave your AA off and only utilize your AA when needed here on Cassard, and you've been spotted perhaps by a CV or something. For 13-point build, I recommend Adrenaline Rush. It reduces your main battery reload time by negative 0.2%, torpedo tube reload time negative 0.2%. Airstrike, secondary, continuous AA damage actually goes up on that last one. So then you could be talking about, rather than a 3.5 second reload time, a 3.4, 3.3, 3.2. Your torpedoes could drop down from something like 90, 87, 85, 84 second reload time, depending on how much health you've lost. And we're running the fill of the tubes, negative 10%. So between that and our commander, upgrades, excuse me, that's why we have the 91.8 second reload time. And we've taken Swift Fish plus 5% on torpedo speed, so giving us that 79 knot speed overall, which makes it very hard for ships to avoid. You saw how the Holland was kind of a deer in the headlights when we dove struck him with one torpedo, almost obliterated him, but he was left, I think, with like 600 some hit points. The second torpedo polished him off. So it's kind of hard when something's coming at you that fast to effectively avoid it for all intents and purposes. And then the last skill I'm looking at running here is the main battery in AA Specialist to have that main battery reload time reduced by negative 5%. So you can see here on one hand, the artillery drops down to 3.3 versus 3.5, and our AA defenses get a small buff to the continuous AA damage. But it's the artillery why we take this. And the reason why I quite like this here on Cassard, or even if it's running him on Kleber or Marceau, this commander, it ties well with the rampant skill. So, if we manage to get a dev strike, there's another negative 5% we're tying in here. So then it could be more like 3.1 second reload time. We're getting much closer to that between those two. Adrenaline Rush, then you could be talking 3, 2.9, 2.8 as an example. Otherwise, it is possible to take the Liquidator skill. This just increases your chance of cause flooding by negative 30%, which I'm guessing puts you up over maybe 600% or close to that. And chances of causing a flood, which is a pretty high chance. But then after that, you're left with a 2%, 2 points remaining. So then how might I myself consider taking those 2 points? Well, I might consider something like what do they call it here? Demolition Experts had different names over the years. Should bring us up to a 9% chance of causing fire on a target. Or maybe you're a concerned commander and priority target is always valuable. It helps you know how many are aiming at you if you are detected. So you could run something like that. But mainly your goal is to operate in stealth for the most part, but opening up with gun engagements when possible, as I showcased in yesterday's video. So I myself plan to go for the main battery in AA Specialists, mainly just have a faster reload time on these 627mm guns. So that's going to bring today's video to a close. I hope you found it helpful as you go up the line. If you have already gone up and got Cassard, and if you have, share your thoughts if your build is a little different than mine below in the comments below, so we can have more discussion and more helpful advice for players who are going to be going up this French destroyer line. So if you liked today's video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Until next time, take care.